types of things that Cassie said in the initial lawsuit that she filed. Because we never really talked about that. We always talk about that it was settled, right? It was settled right away. As soon as she filed it, the case got settled, and she got $30 million. We don't know exactly that she got $30 million. The amount was never released. We know that she was asking for $30 million in the months leading up to it, but we don't know what was paid. We don't know the exact amount what was paid, but there was a huge amount paid, obviously. So when she goes into her factual allegations, she talks about how Mr. Combs lures Miss Ventura into a relationship. Then she goes into all the details of that. Mr. Combs exerts control over Miss Ventura's career and personal life. Then she goes into a few pages talking about that. Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura's relationship becomes violent and abusive. She says a whole bunch of things. Mr. Combs forces Miss Ventura into S-trafficking. Within a few months of beginning a romantic relationship with 40-year-old Mr. Combs, the 22-year-old Miss Ventura felt beholden to his whims and demands. While in New York City, Mr. Combs told Miss Ventura that he wanted to engage in a fantasy of his called voyeurism. Mr. Combs said that it would turn him on if he saw Miss Ventura with another, quote, with another D-I-C-K. The first time Mr. Combs hired a man and brought the man to his home in L.A., the man, Mr. Combs, and Miss Ventura all wore masquerade masks, ingested substances. Mr. Combs directed Miss Ventura to perform certain acts with this man while Mr. Combs watched. He pleasured himself while he directed Miss Ventura and the man to do specific acts. Mr. Combs began to call these freak-offs or FOs. So this is where it came from. This is where the word freak-offs, the phrase freak-offs or FO. It's when he first started doing this with Cassie. That's what he would say to her, we're going to do another freak-off, another FO. He would repeatedly tell Miss Ventura at random moments that he wanted an FO. And Miss Ventura was eventually expected to facilitate the location and hiring of male escorts. At certain points, he would insist on a freak-off weekly. He would repeatedly tell Miss Ventura that this practice was our thing, our secret. They would take place in hotel rooms, including at the Trump International Hotel in Columbus Circle, the Hermitage in Beverly Hills, the London Hotel in Los Angeles, the Intercontinental Century City, the Intercontinental in Atlanta, Intercontinental New York City, the One Hotel in New York and Miami, the Mandarin Oriental in New York and Miami, the Fontainebleau in Miami, the Beverly Hills Hotel. And the list goes on of all the places that these freak-offs happened at. On one occasion in 2013, Mr. Combs had a freak-off set up at the Intercontinental in New York, after which he was charged with tens of thousands of dollars in damages by the hotel. Mr. Combs' then chief of staff, Tony Fletcher, paid the invoice charged by the hotel. I read in another complaint that it was $46,000 or $47,000 that they did in damage in one hotel suite. You know, I don't care how big your hotel suite is. You did almost 50 grand in damage in a night. So how violent are these freak-offs? Let me try to take a second to read through some of these things here. Cassie better be careful. She's out eating dinner with her husband and kids. Is she married now? I didn't know that. Maybe she is. That's a lot of damage. That is a lot of damage. Okay, then she goes into, she was instructed to use certain websites and use escort services to find male escorts to participate in freak-offs? Mr. Combs told Ms. Ventura to search for large black things when she's searching on the website. Sometimes Mr. Combs would pay to fly male escorts to his location, including to multiple cities in the U.S. as well as abroad, as well as internationally. He required Ms. Ventura and his staff to help him make these arrangements. Mr. Combs' assistants would set up the freak-off, including the hotel suites with baby oil and Astroglide. That's the first time I heard of Astroglide coming into that. Mr. Combs always supplied Ms. Ventura and the male escort with copious amounts of substances before and during the freak-offs. Ms. Ventura was given, and then they list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different substances and excessive amounts of alcohol, which allowed her to disassociate during these horrific encounters. It became a common occurrence to get IV fluid in the days after a freak-off to recover from the excessive substances pushed upon her. Can you imagine that? You know, people can go out to parties and have the craziest parties and go wild even for a couple of days. But when have we ever heard that multiple people are going on IVs after that? Can you just imagine that? You have to be hooked up to an IV and get pumped full of nutrients and vitamins because of what you just went through? All right, let me say my thanks to everybody. Milk Jug Moms, thank you so much. Geraldine Boyce, my royalty. Cali Born 72, Lorena Monique, Vivian Jordy, thank you. Dr. Renee Green, thank you guys so much. Thank you. I appreciate all the gifts. You guys are awesome. Mr. Combs would then instruct Ms. Ventura and the escorts to speak to each other, and then would specifically tell Ms. Ventura where to touch the escort. Mr. Combs would say things like, quote, these are all quotes, grab that big black D, and ask her, how does it feel, as he directed her to perform for him. Everything I'm telling you guys, for those of you who are just joining, like, where is this coming from? Where am I getting it from? I'm taking it directly, word for word. Specifically, I'm on page 18 out of 35 of Cassie's lawsuit, and I'm in the section where she's talking about the different things that she was made to endure. And this is the lawsuit that Diddy settled with her as soon as she filed it. So we're getting a little more insight into Diddy, right? Into how he is when he's in private, like what he talks, how he acts, what he's into. During some of the FOs, Mr. Combs would become extremely intoxicated and would hit Ms. Ventura in front of the escort. Ms. Ventura was repulsed by Mr. Combs' demands, but between the physical beating and recognizing his incredible power and incredible temper, she became petrified of her partner and boss and felt that she could not say no. He would even give her lavish gifts right before or even in the middle of a freak-off, seemingly acknowledging the ways in which these forced encounters constituted work for Ms. Ventura, and that he needed to compensate her for it. So imagine, she's doing this, she doesn't really want to be there. And he settled this lawsuit right after it was filed in November of last year. Right in the middle of the freak-off, she doesn't want to be there. He's directing her, do this, grab that big fat
sweeping your home after you floor strike.
And right there, he's giving, oh wait, I got this gift for you. Come on, let me put this necklace on. Let me put this ring on your finger. He's giving her gifts at that time, like, so just like she says in the lawsuit, it's like she's being compensated for doing this. And that ends up being an element in the S-trafficking charge. I'm reading stuff to you guys from the civil suit, but this stuff will take a whole new twist in Diddy's criminal case. Her anxiety before a freak-off would become so great that she would become physically ill to the point of vomiting. While kneeling over the toilet Diddy would shame her into performing for him, eventually forcing her to get up and proceed with the encounter. Then she goes into how dangerous it was if she says no to him. August 2015, in the middle of a surprise birthday dinner for Ms. Ventura, her 29th birthday, Mr. Combs insisted that Ms. Ventura leave the party and go to a hotel for a freak-off. When she expressed that she did not want to go, Mr. Combs had Ms. Ventura cornered by his security staff in order to force her to leave with him. This is leading up to the incident we saw in the hallway of the hotel. This is a year before that, like 8 months or something before that. It's in the middle of her birthday, surprise birthday dinner, 29th birthday, 2015. She's there with family, friends, whoever. And Diddy says, "Come on, we're going to a hotel right now. We got a freak-off set up." After that freak-off, Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura went back to the hotel room that Ms. Ventura was staying in, where some of Ms. Ventura's friends were already hanging out. Mr. Combs was severely intoxicated and at one point during the night picked up one of Ms. Ventura's friends like a child and dangled the friend over the balcony of the 17th floor hotel suite. Cassie and her friends were scared by Diddy's erratic behavior, but Cassie was heavily sedated because of the substances she took to participate in the freak-off and was unable to respond to his terrifying behavior. This is coming from somebody who was with him for 10 years. So, if you don't believe her, you don't believe her. I don't like putting my opinions in so much. I believe her. I believe these things that she's saying. You know, it's one thing to be out to get somebody. It's one thing to, he did some things to you and you're just trying to get him any way you can and do whatever you can to him to get him back. And if that means, filing a fake lawsuit, that's one thing. But when you're giving information to federal prosecutors, you're not lying anymore. If you're the victim witness on a case, which she's victim number one in that lawsuit. If you give fake information, if you give false information to a U.S. attorney, to a federal agent, that's a 5-year felony and they charge you for that. So, I believe her. Then she goes into how she tried to escape from him. In 2011, during a rough patch in their relationship, she went back to the musician Kid Cudi. When Mr. Combs returned from a trip, he demanded another freak-off. During the freak-off, Combs found her phone and found emails between her and Kid Cudi. He became enraged. He put a corkscrew between his fingers and lunged at Ms. Ventura. And yes, Idris Benjamin's security can also be charged. And just because they haven't been yet, just because nobody's been charged yet, doesn't mean that they still can't be. We know the government is in the process of a grand jury investigation still. So that definitely means more charges are coming. Debbie, I didn't see, when did he file? Debbie said Busby filed 7 new cases. I know he filed 6 in the past week. Do you mean 7 more after that? If so, when did he do that? So Ms. Ventura ran away to Kid Cudi's home to escape Mr. Combs. A staff member came back and said, you need to talk to him, feeling like she couldn't escape. She returned to him. He hit her several times, then kicked her in the back as she tried to run out the door. She went to her parents' home in Connecticut, where her mom took pictures of all her bruises all over her body. It's like incident after incident after incident, one after another throughout her whole relationship, that she just goes into certain things that happen. she was in South Africa. She began a flirtatious relationship with an actor. Diddy found out. He called the actor, threatened him. 2016, the FO at the Intercontinental Hotel. This is what we're hearing that happened that day of the fight. We didn't get the details of what was happening in the room. We didn't talk about that. This is Cassie's story of what happened right before that tape we saw. In or around 2016, during a freak-off at the Intercontinental Hotel in Century City, Los Angeles, Mr. Combs became extremely intoxicated and punched Ms. Ventura in the face, giving her a black eye. After he fell asleep, Ms. Ventura tried to leave the hotel room, but as she exited, Mr. Combs awoke and began screaming at Ms. Ventura. He followed her into the hallway of the hotel while yelling at her, grabbed at her, and took glass vase in the hallway and threw them at her, causing the glass to crash around them as soon as that. And she ran to the elevator to escape. Still returning this. Hotel security staff urged her to get back, to get into a cab, go to her apartment, suggesting they had seen the security footage showing Mr. Combs beating her and throwing glass at her. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs paid the Intercontinental Century City $50,000 for the hallway security footage from that evening. Then she went to hide at a friend's house in Florida. Now, 2017, 2018, this is after the incident, because she ended up staying with them for like 2 more years or something like that after the incident. Dianthony, thank you so much. Thank you. In 2018, she joined him for dinner in an Italian restaurant in Malibu, California. After dinner, they returned to Cassie's home. He forced himself into her apartment, tried to kiss her. She told him to stop and attempted to push away. He forcibly pulled off her clothing, unbuckled his belt, and proceeded to grape Ms. Ventura while she repeatedly said no and tried to push him away.